Tom Kennedy stepped into his Seattle home at 5:07 a.m., a bouquet of roses clutched in one hand, his hospital badge still clipped to his scrubs. The air was sharp with early morning chill, the sky outside a bruised shade of pre-dawn blue. He'd finished his overnight shift at Harborview Medical Center earlier than expected, a rare quiet night in the ER. Instead of lingering for coffee with the team, he'd driven straight home, eager to surprise Emily, his wife of 7 years. Lately, their marriage felt like a photograph left too long in the sun, colors fading, edges curling. He missed her, the real her, the woman who used to laugh at his terrible puns over late-night pizza, not the distant version who now slipped through their days like a guest. The house was silent, but not the comforting kind. It was heavy, like the moment before storm breaks. Tom set the roses on the entry table, his keys clinking against the ceramic bowl. He toed off his sneakers, careful not to make noise in case Emily was still asleep. That's when he saw it, a silk scarf, pale blue, draped across the bottom step of the staircase. It shimmered faintly in the dim light, delicate, with a sweet, floral scent that didn't belong. Emily's perfumes were crisp, citrusy, always lined up neatly on her dresser. This was different, cloying, unfamiliar, like it had drifted in from someone else's life. Tom froze, his pulse ticking up. He crouched, lifting the scarf. It was soft, weightless, the kind of thing you'd notice if you dropped it. His mind raced. Emily had been home last night. She'd texted him around 9 p.m., saying she was watching a movie, glass of wine in hand. He'd been elbow deep in a trauma case, barely able to respond. Now doubt crept in like a slow leak. He straightened, scarf still in hand, and climbed the stairs, each step creaking under his weight. The bedroom door was ajar. Emily stood at the vanity, wrapped in a white towel, her dark hair wet and clinging to her shoulders. She turned, startled, then smiled, a quick, practiced curve of her lips. "You're early," she said, her voice light, like she was commenting on the weather. Her eyes flicked to the scarf in his hand, and for a split second, something shifted in her expression. Not fear, not guilt, but alertness, like a deer catching a scent on the wind. "Found this downstairs," Tom said, holding it up. His tone was neutral, but his chest tightened. "Yours?" Emily laughed, a soft, dismissive sound. "Oh, that's probably Sarah's. She stopped by last night for a bit. We had wine, caught up." She turned back to the mirror, brushing her hair with casual ease. "You know how she is, always leaving stuff behind." Sarah, her co-worker from the marketing firm. Tom had met her once, maybe twice. Blonde, loud laugh, the kind of person who'd wear a scarf like this. It sounded plausible. Too plausible. Emily's explanation slid into place like a puzzle piece, but it didn't fit right. Her hands moved too smoothly, her voice too even. He'd seen her like this before, defusing tense client calls, smoothing over mistakes with that same effortless charm. It was her work voice, not her home one. "Right," Tom said, nodding. He folded the scarf and set it on the dresser, watching her reflection. She didn't look at him, just kept brushing, her movements deliberate. The room felt colder now, though the heater hummed faintly in the background. He wanted to ask more. Why Sarah was over so late, why the scarf was on the stairs, why Emily's phone was now face down on the vanity when it usually sat upright, charging. But he didn't. Not yet. Instead, he leaned against the doorframe, forcing a smile. "Long night. Exhausting," she said, meeting his eyes in the mirror for the first time. "Big pitch coming up. You know how it goes." She paused, then added, "You must be beat. Want coffee?" She was redirecting, steering the conversation away from the scarf from last night. Tom knew the tactic. He'd used it himself with difficult patients' families, shift the focus, keep things moving. "Sure," he said, playing along. "I'll make it." Downstairs, the kitchen was spotless. No wine glasses in the sink, no trace of Sarah's visit. Tom started the coffee maker, the gurgle filling the silence. His mind churned. Emily had been different lately. Small things at first. She'd started locking her phone, something she'd never done. Her work dinners had stretched later, her excuses vaguer. 2 weeks ago, he noticed a new perfume on her coat. Musky, heavy, not the citrus she'd worn since their honeymoon. When he'd asked, she'd shrugged, said it was a gift from a client. He'd let it go. He always let it go. Now, standing in the kitchen, the scarf burned in his memory. It wasn't just an object. It was a crack in the story he'd been telling himself. that their distance was temporary, that her late nights were just work, that they were still a team. He poured 2 mugs of coffee, his hand steady, but inside, something shifted. A question he couldn't unask. "Well, don't I know?" Emily came down, now in yoga pants and a loose sweater, her hair tied back. She took the mug with a smile, her fingers brushing his. "You're sweet," she said, sipping. "Missed you last night." "Missed you too," he said, the words automatic. But his eyes drifted to her phone, now tucked into her pocket, out of sight. He thought of the scarf, the perfume, the locked screen. And for the first time in years, he wondered if the woman in front of him was still his wife, or was someone he no longer knew. Tom sat at the kitchen table, the coffee in his mug gone cold. The scarf was upstairs, folded neatly on the dresser, but its presence lingered like a splinter under his skin. Emily had left for work an hour ago. Her goodbye kiss quick, perfunctory, her smile a polished mask. She mentioned a morning meeting, something about a new client, and breezed out the door, her phone tucked tightly in her hand. Tom hadn't pressed her about the scarf or Sarah's alleged visit. He nodded, played the part of the tired husband, but his mind was a live wire, sparking with questions he couldn't silence. The house felt too quiet now, the kind of quiet that amplifies doubt. He stood, pacing the hardwood floor, replaying the morning. Emily's explanation had been smooth, seamless, but it didn't sit right. Sarah stopping by, for wine? Fine, maybe. But the scarf on the stairs, the locked phone, the new perfume, they weren't isolated dots. They were a pattern, and Tom, trained to spot patterns in patients' symptoms, couldn't ignore this one. He needed answers, not assumptions. He needed proof. He started small. The kitchen trash can was empty. No wine bottles or crumpled napkins from last night's supposed catch-up. The dishwasher was clean, no glasses with lipstick stains. Emily was meticulous, but this felt deliberate, like a stage reset after a performance. Tom moved to the living room, scanning for anything out of place. Nothing. Just their usual clutter. Books, a throw blanket, a half-dead fern Emily kept forgetting to water. He climbed the stairs, heart thudding, and entered their bedroom. The scarf was still there, its pale blue fabric catching the morning light. He picked it up, inhaled. The floral scent was stronger now, unmistakable. Not Sarah's, not Emily's. Tom's eyes darted to Emily's side of the closet. Her work dresses hung in neat rows, but one caught his attention. A deep red cocktail dress, new, tag still attached. He'd never seen it before. Emily hadn't mentioned buying it, hadn't modeled it for him like she used to. His fingers brushed the fabric, and he noticed a faint trace of that same musky perfume from her coat weeks ago. His stomach twisted. He checked the pockets of her jackets, her purses. Nothing incriminating, but the absence of evidence felt like its own kind of clue. She was covering her tracks. He sat on the edge of the bed, the scarf in his lap, and pulled out his phone. He hesitated, then texted Sarah. "Hey, good to see you last night. Emily said you stopped by." He stared at the screen, waiting. No reply. Minutes ticked by. He tried to focus, to think like a surgeon, methodical, not emotional. If Sarah hadn't been here, what else was a lie? He opened Emily's laptop, always left charging on the nightstand. It was password protected now. Another change. She'd never locked it before. He tried her usual password, their wedding date. Denied. He tried her birthday. Denied. His jaw tightened. Then a buzz. Not his phone, Emily's, left on the vanity. She'd forgotten it in her rush out the door. A rare slip. Tom's pulse spiked. He crossed the room, picked it up. The screen lit up with a notification. A text from an unsaved number. "Last night was amazing. Same time tomorrow?" The words hit like a punch. He swiped, but the phone demanded a passcode. He tried the same ones as the laptop. No luck. His hand shook, not with anger, but with a cold, creeping certainty. This wasn't paranoia. This was real. He set the phone down, steadying himself. He couldn't confront her yet. Not without more. He needed to be sure, to have something undeniable. He grabbed his keys and drove to the hospital, the city blurring past in streaks of gray. At Harborview, he found Kate, a nurse he'd worked with for years. Kate was sharp, the kind who noticed everything, staff schedules, whispered gossip, the way people moved when they thought no one was watching. She was in the break room, sipping coffee, her scrubs wrinkled from a long shift. "Kate," Tom said, keeping his voice low. "You ever see Emily with anyone unusual? I work events, maybe." Kate's eyes narrowed, studying him. She set her cup down. "You okay, Tom?" Just answer, he said, sharper than he meant. She leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. I saw her at the fundraising gala last month. With Nate Russell. They were close. Laughing, touching arms. I thought it was just friendly, but she trailed off, reading his face. You didn't know. Nate Russell, Tom's former colleague. A cardiologist with a slick smile and a reputation for charm. He'd been at their wedding, toasting their future with a grin that now felt like a taunt. Tom's chest tightened. Thanks, he said, turning to leave. Tom, Kate called after him. Be careful. She's good at this. Back in his car, Tom's phone pinged. Sarah's reply. Last night, I was at my mom's. Haven't seen Emily in weeks. The words burned. Emily had lied. The scarf wasn't Sarah's. The wine night never happened. He gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. Kate's words echoed. She's good at this. How long had Emily been playing him? How many lies had he swallowed because he trusted her? He drove home, the roses still on the entry table, now wilting. He didn't touch them. Instead, he went upstairs, opened his laptop, and started digging. Emily's social media was locked down, but Nate's wasn't. His Instagram had photos from the gala. Emily in that red dress, smiling beside him, her hand on his arm. The caption, great night, great company. Tom's vision blurred. He clicked through more posts, finding nothing overt, but the pieces were there, dinners, late-night drinks, moments Emily had never mentioned. His phone buzzed again. Another text from the unsaved number, this time to Emily's phone, still on the vanity. Miss you already. Tom stared at it, the words carving a hollow space in his chest. He didn't know who this was, Nate, someone else, but it didn't matter. The truth was clawing its way out, and he couldn't unsee it. Emily wasn't just distant. She was gone, living a life he wasn't part of. And now, he was watching it unravel, one lie at a time. Tom stood in the dim light of their Seattle kitchen, the glow of Emily's phone screen searing into his eyes. The latest text from the unsaved number, miss you already, hung in the air like smoke. His hands trembled, but he set the phone back on the counter exactly as he'd found it. Confronting her now would be a mistake. Emily was too good, too practiced. She'd spin a story, deflect, and he'd be left grasping at shadows. No, he needed something solid, something she couldn't talk her way out of. He needed to outsmart her. The roses on the entry table were dead now, petals curling brown. Tom ignored them and sat at his laptop, the hum of the house pressing in. Sarah's text had blown apart Emily's lie about the scarf. Kate's whisper about Nate Russell at the gala had lit a fuse. But a text from an unknown number and a photo weren't enough. He needed to see her crack, to catch her in the act of lying. He leaned back, mind racing, and hatched a plan. A trap. Simple, direct, but sharp enough to cut through her facade. He texted Emily, dinner tonight? Let's do something special. Been too long. He waited, staring at the screen. Her reply came fast. Love that. Where? Too eager, he thought, like she was already scripting her performance. He picked a restaurant from Nate's Instagram post, the upscale bistro downtown where they'd posed in that damning photo. How about Marina's at 7? He wrote. Her response was instant. Perfect. No hesitation. No questions. That alone set his nerves on edge. Tom spent the day preparing. He called Kate, voice low. If I need you to send me something, proof, can you do it fast? Kate didn't ask why. I've got more, she said. Just say when. He hung up, heart pounding. He wasn't just a betrayed husband anymore. He was a surgeon, precise, calculating, ready to excise the lie from his life. He showered, shaved, put on a crisp button-down. The mirror showed a man he barely recognized, jaw tight, eyes hard. Good. He didn't want to be the old Tom tonight. At Marina's, the air smelled of garlic and expensive wine. The place was all soft lighting and polished wood, couples leaning close over candlelit tables. Tom arrived early, securing a corner booth with a clear view of the entrance. He ordered a whiskey, letting it burn down his throat, steadying him. Emily walked in at 7:02, her red dress, the one from the gala, hugging her frame. She scanned the room, spotted him, and smiled. It was her work smile, the one she used to charm clients. Tom raised his glass, playing along. You look amazing, he said as she slid into the booth. True, but it stung. She'd worn that dress for Nate, not him. Thanks, she said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. This is nice. We haven't done this in forever. Her voice was warm, but her eyes darted to her phone, face down on the table. Tom noticed. He always noticed now. They ordered salmon for her, steak for him, and made small talk. Work stress, a funny story about a coworker. Tom kept it light, but every word was a step toward the trap. He leaned in, lowering his voice. You've been so busy lately. Feels like I barely see you. He paused, watching her. Everything okay? Her smile flickered, just for a second. Of course, she said, sipping her wine. Just work. You know how it is. She reached for his hand, her touch fleeting. Tom didn't pull away, but he felt nothing. Just cold calculation. Right, he said, leaning back. Like last night with Sarah. Sounded fun. He let the words hang, his eyes locked on hers. Emily's hand froze mid-sip, the glass hovering. She set it down carefully, her movements too controlled. Yeah, it was, she said, her voice a shade too bright. Just girl talk. Wine. Nothing crazy. She laughed, but it was thin like glass about to crack. Tom tilted his head. Funny. I texted Sarah today. She said she was at her mom's last night. He kept his tone casual, but his pulse thrummed. This was it, the moment he'd been building toward. Emily's face didn't collapse. She was too good for that. But her eyes widened, just a fraction, and her fingers tightened around her napkin. She must have mixed up the days, she said, recovering fast. You know how scattered she is. She reached for her phone, like she might text Sarah to corroborate, but stopped herself. Tom saw it. The hesitation, the tell. Maybe, he said, shrugging. He took a bite of steak, letting silence do the work. Emily shifted in her seat, her smile gone. The air between them thickened, heavy with unspoken truth. Tom pressed harder. You've been different, Em. Distant. New dresses, new perfume. Locked phone. I'm not blind. Her lips parted, but no words came. For the first time, she looked cornered. Then, like flipping a switch, she softened, her eyes glistening. Tom, I'm sorry. It's just work's been insane. I didn't want to stress you out. She leaned forward, voice cracking. There was one night, okay, I got too drunk at a work thing. With Nate. It was a mistake. It meant nothing. Nate. She'd said his name. Tom's chest burned, but he stayed calm, surgical. A mistake, he repeated, his voice flat. That's all. Yes, she said, nodding quickly. I swear. It was one time. I feel awful. Tears welled in her eyes, but Tom wasn't buying it. He'd seen her cry on cue before, pitching to tough clients. This was a performance. He pulled out his phone, opened the photo Kate had sent. An older one, Emily and Nate at a hotel bar, her hand on his chest, months before the gala. He slid the phone across the table. One time, he asked, his voice low, lethal. Emily's face drained of color. She stared at the photo, then at him. Tom, she started, but her voice broke. The mask was off. She fumbled for her wine, knocking it over. Red liquid pooled on the tablecloth, soaking her napkin. She didn't move to clean it. Neither did he. Tell me the truth, Tom said, his words ablade. Now. She opened her mouth, closed it. Then, quietly, it's not what you think. Nate and it's complicated. But I love you, Tom. You do. Her voice trembled, but it was hollow. A plea, not a confession. Tom's phone buzzed. A new message from Kate. Check your email. More. He didn't open it. Not yet. He stood, tossing his napkin on the table. We're done here, he said. Emily reached for his arm, but he pulled away, her fingers grazing air. He walked out, leaving her in the wreckage of her lies, the restaurant's hum fading behind him. Outside, the night was cold, the city alive with headlights and distant laughter. Tom stood by his car, breath visible in the air. He opened Kate's email. A zip file. Photos, text dates. Nate wasn't the only one. There were others. Names he didn't know. Places he'd never been. Emily's secret life, laid bare. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just stared at the screen, the truth cutting deeper than any knife. Tom drove through Seattle's rain-slick streets, the wipers slicing through sheets of water. His phone sat silent in the cup holder, Kate's email still open, its contents a weight he couldn't shake. Photos of Emily with Nate, with others, men he didn't know, in hotel lobbies, at dimly lit bars. Text messages, flirty, explicit, spanning months, years. A timeline of betrayal, meticulously documented. He hadn't read it all. He couldn't. Not yet. But the fragments he'd seen were enough to hollow him out, to turn the life he thought he knew into ash. He didn't go home. The house, their house, felt like a crime scene now, every corner tainted. Instead, he pulled into a 24-hour diner off the highway, the kind with flickering neon and coffee that tasted like regret. He sat in a vinyl booth, laptop open, sorting through Kate's files. Each click was a cut. Emily laughing with a stranger in a Chicago hotel. A receipt for a dinner she claimed was a work event. A screenshot of her texting Nate. He's clueless. Makes it easy. Tom's jaw clenched. Clueless. That's what she thought of him. The man who'd built a life with her, who'd trusted her, who'd loved her even when she started to slip away. He closed the laptop, staring at his reflection in the diner's window. The man looking back was a stranger, eyes sunken, face carved with resolve. He wasn't the Tom who'd bought roses 2 days ago. That Tom was gone. This one was a surgeon, methodical, precise, ready to excise the rot. He wouldn't scream or break things. He wouldn't give Emily the satisfaction of a fight. His revenge would be clean, legal, devastating. He'd take back his life, piece by piece, and leave her with nothing but the truth. First, he needed a plan. He called Kate, his voice steady despite the storm inside. "I need everything you have," he said. "Every photo, every text. And I need to know who else knew." Kate didn't hesitate. "I'll send more tonight," she said. "People talk, Tom. The hospital's not blind. Nate's been careless. So has she." Her words were a lifeline, proof he wasn't crazy. He thanked her and hung up, already mapping his next move. By morning, Tom was in a lawyer's office downtown, a sleek space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Puget Sound. Linda Carter, the attorney, was sharp, no nonsense, her gray suit as crisp as her questions. "Grounds?" she asked, pen poised over a legal pad. Tom slid a USB drive across the desk. "Adultery," he said. "Years of it. Proof's there." Linda plugged in the drive, her eyes scanning the files. Photos, texts, dates, all organized like a case study. She didn't flinch. "This is thorough," she said. "You want the house?" "Assets. House, my car, my savings," Tom said. "She can keep her accounts. I don't want her money. I want out." Linda nodded, jotting notes. "We'll keep it clean," she said. "No fault in Washington, but this evidence strengthens your case for assets." "She won't fight long." Tom exhaled, the weight in his chest shifting, not gone but lighter. Clean. That's what he wanted. No drama, no chaos. Just freedom. Back at the house, Tom moved like a ghost. Emily was at work, or so she'd texted. He didn't care where she really was. He packed a duffel bag, clothes, his laptop, a photo of his parents. He left the wedding album on the shelf, its pages now a fiction. In the bedroom, he found the scarf, still on the dresser. He tossed it in the trash. Then he sat at the kitchen table, drafting an email to the hospital's ethics board. Nate Russell, a senior cardiologist, had violated professional conduct, pursuing a relationship with a subordinate spouse. Tom attached photos, texts, and a timeline, keeping his name out of it. He hit send. The click of the mouse, a guillotine's drop. That evening, Emily came home. Tom heard her keys jangle, her heels clicking on the hardwood. She paused in the doorway, spotting him at the table, his duffel bag at his feet. "Tom," she said, her voice tentative, like she was stepping into a minefield. "What's going on?" He didn't look at her. "I know," he said, his voice low, final. "Nate, the others. Years, Emily. Years." He slid his phone across the table, Kate's latest photo on the screen. Emily and a man he didn't recognize, arms linked, laughing outside a Portland bar. Emily's face crumpled, but she didn't cry. She just stood there, hands limp at her sides. "It's not," she started, then stopped. "There's no script for this. No lie smooth enough. Tom, I love you. I messed up, but we can." "No," he cut her off, standing. "We're done." He grabbed his bag and walked past her, her perfume, that musky, foreign scent, trailing after him. She didn't follow, didn't beg. The silence was louder than any fight. Tom checked into a hotel, a nondescript place near the airport. He lay on the stiff bed, staring at the ceiling, the hum of the mini fridge filling the room. His phone buzzed. Kate again. "Nate's under review. Board's moving fast. She's losing allies." Tom didn't reply. He didn't need to. The dominoes were falling. Emily's world, her carefully curated lies, was unraveling. And Nate? His career was on the line, his reputation about to crack. Tom opened his laptop, pulling up the divorce papers Linda had emailed. He read them over, each clause a brick in the wall he was building between him and the past. He signed digitally, the act as final as a scalpel's cut. Then he leaned back, exhaling. The pain was still there, a dull ache in his ribs, but it was different now. Not raw, not jagged. It was the pain of healing, of cutting away what no longer served him. His phone buzzed again. A text from Emily. "Please, can we talk?" "I am sorry." He stared at it, then deleted it without responding. Sorry didn't undo years of deception. It didn't erase the men, the lies, the life she'd lived behind his back. He turned off the phone and closed his eyes. Tomorrow, he'd start rebuilding. Not a marriage, not a fantasy, but himself. For the first time in years, he felt a faint stir of something like hope. The truth was his now, and with it, the power to walk away. Tom woke to the hum of the hotel air conditioner, the room still dark except for a sliver of dawn creeping through the curtains. His duffel bag sat by the door, a silent reminder of a life he'd left behind. Emily's text from last night, "Please, can we talk?" "I'm sorry," lingered in his mind, but he hadn't responded. There was nothing left to say. The divorce papers were signed, the ethics complaint against Nate Russell filed, and the truth, raw and unyielding, was finally his. He'd spent years in the dark, but now he stood in the light, ready to rebuild. He checked out of the hotel and drove to a small apartment in Portland, a one-bedroom he'd leased sight unseen. The city felt different from Seattle, greener, quieter, a place where he could breathe without the weight of betrayal pressing down. He unpacked methodically, hanging his clothes, setting his parents' photo on a shelf. The wedding ring stayed in his pocket, a cold, heavy thing he wasn't ready to look at. Not yet, but he didn't need it to remind him of what he'd lost. He needed it to remember what he'd gained, himself. Days turned into weeks. The divorce moved swiftly. Linda, his lawyer, called with updates. Emily hadn't fought the terms. She'd signed the papers, relinquishing the house and their shared accounts. "She knows she's cornered," Linda said. The evidence was ironclad. Tom nodded, staring out his apartment window at the Willamette River. He didn't feel victorious, just free. The house was his now, but he'd already listed it for sale. He didn't want its walls, its memories. A clean break meant no ghosts. At the hospital, Nate's fall was swift. Kate texted Tom the news. The ethics board had suspended him pending a full investigation. Whispers spread. Affairs, favoritism, breach protocols. Nate's charm couldn't save him. By month's end, he was gone, his office cleared out, his name erased from the staff directory. Tom didn't gloat. He didn't need to. Justice wasn't about revenge. It was about balance. Nate had taken something from him. Now he'd lost something too. Emily's world crumbled quietly. Kate, ever the observer, filled Tom in. Emily's colleagues at the marketing firm had heard the rumors, her affairs, her lies. She wasn't fired, but the promotions she'd chased stopped coming. Her social circle shrank, friends siding with Tom or drifting away. She moved to a smaller apartment, her red dress and musky perfume no longer armor. Tom didn't wish her pain, but he didn't pity her either. She'd built her cage, lie by lie. Now she lived in it. Tom found purpose in Portland. He joined a free clinic, volunteering weekends to treat the uninsured. The work grounded him, stitching wounds, listening to stories, offering care without judgment. It reminded him why he'd become a surgeon, to fix what was broken, to ease suffering. Each patient was a step away from the past, a brick in the foundation of a new life. He started running again, the trails along the river clearing his mind. He bought a coffee maker, learned to cook. Small victories, but they were his. One evening, as he jogged through Forest Park, his phone buzzed. Another text from Emily. "I know I hurt you. I'll never forgive myself. Can we meet just once?" He stopped, breath clouding in the cool air, and read it again. Her words were softer now, stripped of the polish she'd once wielded. Part of him, the old Tom, wanted to hear her out, to understand why she'd torn their life apart. But the new Tom, the one who'd survived, knew better. Closure wasn't her apology. It was his choice to keep moving forward. He typed a reply, "No. I wish you well, but we're done." He hit send, then blocked her number. The phone felt lighter in his hand. He resumed his run, the rhythm of his steps steady, the forest alive with birdsong. For the first time in months, he smiled, not at her pain, but at his peace. Weeks later, Tom got an unexpected email from Kate. She'd left Harbor View, tired of the politics, and was working at a clinic in Tacoma. "You did the right thing," she wrote. "But there's more you should know. Attached was a folder, screenshots of Emily's old messages, not just to Nate, but to two other men, a lawyer and a tech consultant. The texts were older, from years back, mocking Tom's trust. He thinks I'm a yoga. So easy. There were photos, too, Emily in hotel rooms, smiling like she owned the world. Kate's note ended. Thought you deserved the full picture. Stay strong. Tom stared at the files, his chest tight, but not breaking. The betrayal wasn't new, just deeper than he'd imagined. Emily hadn't just cheated. She'd rewritten their marriage into a game, one she'd played with chilling precision. He didn't delete the folder. He saved it, not for revenge, but for clarity, a reminder of why he'd walked away. Then he closed his laptop and stepped onto his balcony, the city sparkling below. Portland wasn't home yet, but it was a start. He began to rebuild his circle. He met a neighbor, a teacher named Clara, who invited him to a book club. He went, not for romance, but for connection, for voices that didn't carry the echo of betrayal. He laughed that night, a real laugh, over a debate about sci-fi novels. It felt like waking up. He called his sister in Denver, promising a visit. He bought a plane ticket. Life, he realized, wasn't waiting for him to heal. It was happening now. One morning, as he sipped coffee at the clinic, a patient thanked him, her eyes bright with gratitude. She'd been homeless, sick, hopeless. Now she was better, because of him. Tom nodded, throat tight. This was his truth now. Not Emily's lies, not Nate's arrogance, but the impact he could make. He wasn't whole yet, but he was getting there, stitch by stitch. Emily tried one last time. A letter arrived, handwritten, slipped under his apartment door. I lost myself, she wrote. I broke us. I'll carry that forever. Tom read it once, then tore it in half. He didn't hate her. He didn't love her. She was just a chapter closed. He tossed the pieces in the trash and headed to the clinic, the morning sun warm on his face. The past was gone. The future was his.